Hello there, Sandy Ewens from FormaServe once again. In my next short video, we'll be taking a look at developing on the web. Following on from my last video, where we talked about development containers. I will show how we can take these development containers and run our application in a browser on the web. If you're already confused, stick around and I'll explain it all. In this video, we'll be talking about GitHub.dev and Codespaces. Learn what they are, how they can help our development and the cost involved. Both these two products allow us to develop in a browser. Nothing is installed on our local machine. All running over the web. All very neat and greatly assist us developers. It's exciting times. The first one we're going to take a look at is GitHub.dev. Let me start off with the easy one. No containers involved in this one. GitHub.dev allows us to open a repo and edit our code in a browser. Nice and easy, nice and quick. Great for making a quick change request before you go down to the operating theatre. Yes, haven't we all done that? Let me show you an example. Let me open my GitHub repository in a browser. Over to all my repositories and pick a repo to open. I'll pick the one at the top of the list. This is a Node.js spelling app that my grandchildren use to practice their spellings. You can see it has quite a bit of activity. They keep coming up with change requests. Start them young. Let me open up the app.js file and you will see it is a typical Node Express application. But now if I press the full stop key, it will open the source in a Visual Studio Code window in the browser. How neat is that? Very impressed. Here we have Visual Studio Code presented in a browser. A web-based editor that runs entirely in your browser. You can navigate through your repository, make any changes and use Git commands just as you would for any development in VS Code locally. You can see that the URL has changed from github.com to github.dev. So if you need to bookmark this, it can be done quite easily. To quote a Microsoft employee, I know it wasn't Nick Ewins, this is like opening a project without cloning it. The only thing I've found with this is that generally the keyboard mapping has been well preserved. F1 will open the palette just as we would expect. But if you use the Ctrl-W key, mapping in VS Code to close a tab, this method, Ctrl-W, will close and explore a tab. Not what we want. At least we get a warning. So be aware of that. Let me show you a quick edit. I can make changes to my application. I'll copy over debug line there and change it. Then over to the Git tab and commit my changes. The main difference using the GitHub.dev browser is that I cannot run nor debug this application here. If this is too much of inconvenience, we can use the next topic in this video, Codespaces. Before moving on to Codespaces, let me summarize. Using the full stop on a repo in the browser will open that repo in a browser ready for editing. Or I can change the github.com URL to github.dev and we will see the same browser window as pressing the full stop on a repo. Let's move on to Codespaces. Codespaces are fast cloud development environments from Microsoft and GitHub. Visual Studio Code backed by high performance virtual machines that starts in seconds. They are an instant cloud development environment where you can run, develop, test, debug, push, etc. etc. Really everything that we can do in a development environment on our PC or Mac, but it's browser based. Let me show you a screenshot of VS Code running locally on my machine and then I'll show you the Codespaces of the same repository. As you will see, very similar. Let's get the technical stuff out the way first. Codespaces run in virtual machines in an Azure cloud base. By default, it will create a virtual development machine with a 4-core processor, 8 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. That'll do me. You can configure more resources if you require, going up to 32 cores and 64 GB of memory. More than most developers' local development machines, I suspect. Let me open another one of my repos. VS Code remote try node. If you have access to Codespaces, in the code drop down you will see a Codespaces tab. Press the Create Codespaces on the main branch and let it open. That will chug away, doesn't take long. And now we have our fully developed workspace running in an Azure VM somewhere in the world. Don't know nor care where. We have the same activity bar down the left hand side, the Explorer, the Editor group and our Terminals pane at the bottom, just as we would have locally. I can press F1 and the palette comes up. Let me make some changes, run it and show you debug. I'll make a change to server.js and let me try debugging. I'll set a breakpoint and press F5 to run it. We can see it hits the breakpoint and we can step through the source. It sends a message, a debug message to the console. Then it pops up asking if we want to open in a browser. We can click that there, or we can open the Ports tab and press the world icon to open a browser on port 3000. Running our application just the same as we would normally. I'll stop that debug session. I can install extensions. I can change my theme. All are the same as it would be locally. Synthwave 84 is very popular at the moment. I'll install that. If you have your sync settings on, that will ripple down to my local PC too. Very neat. And that's what Codespaces are all about. Give them a try. They are well worth it. Before we move on to pricing, I had to mention someone added this comment to a Microsoft webinar about Codespaces. Did make me laugh. I'll have to try that. Do you think the accountants will fall for that? Over the last couple of videos, we have shown how you can extend your development environment by using dev containers, GitHub.dev and Codespaces. To wrap this video up, let me run through the costs of each of these ways of working. To use dev containers locally, there is no charge. To use GitHub.dev in a browser, there is no charge. If you want to use Codespaces in a browser, there is a charge. GitHub Codespaces is available for organizations using GitHub Teams or GitHub Enterprise Cloud. Check out Microsoft's Codespaces licensing page for exact pricing. It really does depend on the resources that you'll be using. I'll put the link in the description. If you need any further details about open source or IBMI, check out all our videos at learning.formaserve.co.uk and the articles we have written for powerwire.eu. I hope you find them useful and let us know if there are any other topics you want us to cover. Even through these difficult times, my company, FormaServe, is still providing training on our favourite platform, the IBMI. Whether it's remotely, through a mask, we are still here for you. If it's traditional programming using RPG and CL, or the modern methods of integrating open source into your infrastructure, we are here to help. We have over 30 years of teaching on the IBMI. Why not use us to get up to date and be at the forefront of the post-pandemic world? FormaServe uses Microsoft Teams software to develop top-notch training material. Take a look. You will not be disappointed. As many students have found, all our training is very informal. It's the way to learn. Find out what it's like to have fun while training. And that wraps up this quick video. Thank you for watching our how-to on IBMI video set. I hope you found them useful. Keep checking out our website learning.formaserve.co.uk and our YouTube channel. We regularly add new ones. Stay safe and we'll see you soon. Thank you.